right, take 5,000. For the record, I had kind of been having a little bit of issues this morning with my stuff. I had done one way early this morning. Looked back on it. The window for the videos I was reviewing hadn't opened up, or I hadn't, gotten that figured out in any case. And then also there was a weird echo where it had a different mic activated as well. So here we are. Let's do this. I was thinking about the differentiations we make between free will and determinism. And I think it largely is concerned with what you consider to be internal motivation versus external manipulation, right? The idea being that we are something and we have internal motivations. We're not just slave to external stimuli unless you don't see your body as being a part of you, or your instincts, or your intellect, or your skepticism, or whatever. Like, if you don't see yourself as being anything, I suppose everything's external to you. But the point would be, you could take a really practical example. If I were to force myself upon a woman against her will, as opposed to romancing her, presumably, in a not ignoble fashion, not lying or something, but to persuade her to love me, as opposed to having my wicked way with her, regardless of whether or not she wants it, that's kind of the difference there. External manipulation versus internal motivation. One of those is considered to be a very ignoble, evil thing to do, rightly so, as opposed to the other, which is, acceptable at the very least. But it feels like that's kind of the general differentiation we make. That's kind of the idea of free will as opposed to determinism. Anyways, moving on, we have a video by Chris Williamson to look at, and then one by Shoe on Head, which is a follow-up to the video I'd made last week, I believe, on Emiru. I think it was the beginning of last week. Let's see if we can get into this and not screw everything up this time. Alright, yeah. I Can Fix Her, Why We Get Obsessed with Broken Partners by Chris Williamson and Matthew Hussey. Hussey. I knew a guy called... His last name was Gay. I think I would have changed it maybe, but... Hussey. Technically, I think the like a young, impudent woman is spelled differently, but it's still... I assume it's pronounced the same. Probably a word I should start... I was thinking of like obduracy. That's a word I want to use more. And I looked up Ide Fix, or something like that. I'd heard it used several times. I think, I don't know where exactly. I think it's some sort of series or a book or something. But I still don't know entirely what it means. I think it has to do with like a fixation, which is like a habit which is very resistant to being broken, like a monomania or something. Like it's like a self-perpetuating defensive belief or habit, or I'm not sure exactly what it'd be in reference to. Maybe it's all of it. Maybe there's a more specific thing. I'm not sure. Anyways, yeah, let's get into this.
Underpinnings of what's happening during find out the sort of neurological underpinnings of what's happening during the I can fix her, I can fix him chase versus the I have arrived, I am safe, I am secure chase, which I guess is kind of less like a chase and more like a rest. Reason being, there's a lot of that sort of cortisol dopamine energy going on of this is a goal, and if I can achieve the goal, I will get a sense of satisfaction. But it's always very rushy. It's always kind of like a high and then a low, and there's whiplash, and it feels a little bit sort of chaotic and ambiguous and unpredictable and uncertain. And that's sure there are high.
Well, this is not my area of expertise. This is kind of more a area of research or interest that just intrigues me. But it feels like the notion of what you might be looking for in a relationship is something that is sustainable. Obviously, you would have the first burst of romantic balderdash that goes into it. Sorry, that's probably unkind of me, but you have that first very intense experience probably with the other person and getting to know them and that initial romance that goes on. But then I feel like at some point it would have to turn into something that is like more low key and more something that's more sustainable, right?
But they're more like victories than they are true rests. And I would love to work out what the sort of neurochemicals that are driving that are. And I would wager that there will be stuff to do with pursuit, and risk and edginess, right? Like adrenaline, epinephrine, norepinephrine, dopamine, as opposed to like oxytocin, serotonin.
Well, and there's a weird thing about, I think the notion of dopamine would be that you can't get the same sensation from the same amount of dopamine at the same time every time, right? You have to keep increasing the amount that you need in order to get that same experience. So it isn't something that is sustainable. It is something that is by its very nature avaricious. You either have to starve it for a little while and then come back and maybe you can get that same feeling again. But if you're trying to maintain this, it's just going to keep building on itself almost, or something like that. You have to give it a break or something, I think. I think that would be the idea.
Tone in, like you are in a sympathetic relationship, not a parasympathetic relationship.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, and one produces, as you say, the roller coaster, and it's not just the feeling of achievement. It's relief. You know, like that's the feeling so often is relief. I have them. Like when that person who you just so want the approval of, and you so want them to want you back the way that you want them to think about you as much as you think about them. When that person says something, like they send you a text and they say, "I miss you so much. I just love you so much."
Okay, that's kind of some wet, soppy sort of thing going on here.
Of nowhere. You like all of it.
Admittedly, like I feel like romance, like for the record, I shouldn't judge on this one because I have been in love, and you do things that you're like, oh, you look back and you're like, what the crap was that? But I think romance probably seems completely ridiculous to anyone not involved in it. It's a very intense sort of thing going on.
Sudden, you're like, it's almost like your life was being threatened, and now it's not. Now you feel like
Someone's taken the gun away from you.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm safe right now in this moment. I feel briefly safe. I and that release, that kind of euphoria that results from that, extraordinarily powerful. And that, when psychologists talk about that trauma bond, there is that variable reward nature to it.
What is a trauma bond?
Trauma bond is the idea that, someone treats you badly again and again and again and again and again. And at a certain point, it's so unrewarding that we might even consider, like, enough is enough. But then right as we're starting to make up our mind about that person, they do something sweet.
There's a weird type of, like, I talked about this before, I think once or twice. Well, I don't know when, but the notion is that we categorically associate pain with being wrong and pleasure with being right. It's why I think to some extent, torture doesn't work as a really good method of getting accurate data, and it's why abuse does work, because when you put a person in a lot of pain, they become very suggestible. The only thing they definitively know is that somehow, some way, they're wrong. You can make them think the up is down, down is up, right is wrong, and wrong is right. You can make them think anything or believe anything if it gets the pain to stop or gets them to whatever, right? And well, for the record, the same thing goes with regards to dopamine, where, like, if you're really desperate, one way or the other, pain, pleasure, whatever it is, I think you can start to... You become highly suggestible, perhaps. It's a weird type of dynamic, I think, that exists. And again, I think it's why torture just really doesn't work, and abuse actually really does work well. Because you can put a person in pain, and you're telling them this is why it's happening. This is why I'm doing this to you. If you just stop doing it, like, again, it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. It doesn't matter if it makes logical sense. All they know is because they're in so much pain, they're wrong. Somehow they're wrong. Something they're doing is wrong. Even if there is no connection, even if they're not actually doing anything wrong. How can I be right if I feel like this? That's kind of the idea. And the same thing goes in the other direction. With regards to pleasure, you get junkies who are destroying their entire lives, burning everything to the ground, because how can I be wrong? How can I be wrong when I feel this I don't know.
They do something
Hopefully that made sense.
seemingly kind. They show up for us in some way. They apologize when they've, lied or gaslit us or made us feel awful about our feelings for the last 10 times. But all of a sudden, they show some promise, and then we're dragged back in or sucked back in. That's the trauma bond. And people stay in that for years and years and years. That's the really scary
What's the phrase? Hope springs eternal in the human heart.
part. But there's a very
Well, I think there's a part of us too that we want there to be a pattern to it or something like that. Like, yeah, I don't know.
variable reward nature to that. That's in a way the slot machine, right? If you never won, chances are you wouldn't be there, but you win just enough that it keeps you there.
What is it? I think it's called. There's a thing called the near miss fallacy. That might be part of it as well.
Kind of safety that healthier, more slow release energy relationships produce is a different kind of feeling. And I sometimes when I see there's like certain Instagram content out there you see of people who are like, I'm just waiting. There was one I saw the other day from a guy who was like, I'm just waiting until, I'm not going to settle. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm waiting until it's magical. I'm waiting because love is, I'm not going to settle for love that isn't magical, for love that isn't this, love that isn't that. And the more he spoke, the more, for me,
What? I don't know.
it didn't feel like the version of love that tends to be enduring, that tends to be genuinely make people happy. It felt.
And that's I guess maybe what I was going to talk about. It feels like a lot of people what they're looking for somehow in a romantic relationship, which I don't think is maybe entirely wrong, but they're looking for something that's like freakishly intense as an experience, something that's so intense it makes you forget everything else that ever existed, right? That again, it's maybe not necessarily bad, but it's not what you're going to feel for the rest of that relationship in your life. Like that intense experience is not, in my mind, sustainable. Like it isn't maybe what you actually. It's not regular. It's not reliable. It's not. I don't know, that would seem to be the case. Anyway.
To me like a kind of justification for constantly waiting for that feeling. And I think we get like, in some ways these arguments get pitted against each other. Like it's either you find someone that is stable and healthy and it's kind of boring and you settled a little bit, but whatever, or you find someone who's exciting and it's passionate and it's magical and it makes you miserable. I don't think it's necessarily an either or in those terms, but I do think that in the same way you could do drugs and eat pizza every night and get drunk every night and that would produce a kind of high, but you're a healthy guy who values the feeling that being healthy gives you. There is something you get from that that's more powerful to you. And in relationships, until that thing becomes more powerful, you're always going to be chasing this other thing.
There's this interesting link where people confuse chaos for chemistry.
Yeah.
And intensity for intimacy. And I think it's just largely like a neurobiological trick. I don't think that there's anything really deeper going on. I think that somebody has not almost all of the situations through any choice of their own. Just the way that they present has hooked a particular fish line into this area of your brain, and it keeps on pushing it. And then calm love feels boring at first, and that chasing love that feels safe instead of exciting, and not assuming that this person isn't sparky, right? That there's no spark. I mean, this was a great insight I learned from Jessica Baum's first book, Anxiously Attached. She's got a new one out.
It's a really cool background. Does he keep switching it? Like, does he ever have the same stage that he's doing these things on, or does he keep, like, does he rent different ones every now and then? Because it's like, got motorbikes, got cars. Sorry, completely divergent from the point.
Called Safe. You should bring her on the show. She'd be great for you. And she said, some people sit down with someone and they feel a spark, and they assume that that's something special between both of them. But what they don't realize is this person is just sparky with everyone. That's just who they are.
Yeah.
And you go, that's brilliant. And especially on a first date, we had this with Prime, Logan Paul's drink, for instance. Allow me to blend two worlds you didn't think I was going to blend today.
I'm
the
waiting.
Beverage industry and like intimate connection. Prime optimized for first sip, and we did a ton of taste testing on a lot of different drinks. And there were some drinks that have your like tolerance for them over time. Diet Coke is a great version of this. Like, you take your first sip and it's satisfying, but the real key to Diet Coke and all of the Coke line is that you can keep drinking it and you really never get sick of it. There are other drinks that you optimize for the first sip. So if Logan Paul's on his podcast and he flicks a bottle of Prime across you and he goes, Matthew, taste that. And you take a sip and you're like, wow, that's really fucking hell. There's something going on there. But after you get halfway through the bottle, you're like, might be a little bit, this is getting a little bit sort of sickly. And by the time you finish it, like, I don't really want to.
That's honestly, for me, that's most snacks. There was also like a theory I was thinking of. It has to do with the notion that, like, I think it was what he was talking about too. It has to do with the notion that you mistake some things for intimacy when they really aren't. Where you can, in theory, have like what would be maybe a genuine romantic or, you know, a genuine connection with another person, which is more like subdued perhaps, versus like serendipitously timed mania that is, you know, biologically inspired. Like, you happen to meet someone and you happen to be attracted at each other. You happen to be attracted at each other, not with each other. You happen to be attracted at each other at the same time. It's pure luck. There's no genuine connection there. It's just you happen to be infatuated with the other person at the same time the other person is infatuated with you. That can happen unilaterally, or it can happen bilaterally, or it can happen to someone who you like and who likes you, or it can happen to someone who doesn't like you at all, or it can happen to someone who likes you and you don't like them at all. But I don't think that type of infatuation is necessarily indicative of something more meaningful or something deeper. Sorry to harsh your buzz, maybe if you're in that situation.
Like, they've certainly balanced some of the flavors better than others, but for some of them it's like, whoo. And maybe if you're a 12, right, like your palate is slightly different.
No, sorry, I was talking about snacks. Yeah, it feels like a lot of snacks these days, I'm not overly enamored with them. It's like the flavors are just like, they're like a cheap magic trick where they're just slapping you in the face with the most extreme, over-the-top flavors. Actually, I kind of like my own cooking better these days. But
To mine. I think the same thing is true with partners, that there are some who optimize for the first sip up front, and you're like, oh, this is so, it's thrilling. I'm on a roller coaster. You're like, yeah, like being on a roller coaster is cool until you can't get off.
There are so.
Well, I was thinking of like a comparison between like this and summer camp. Like the notion. Well, for the record, I've never actually gone to summer camp, but you go to similar things where you have like this experience that's like really crazy because you've gone on vacation somewhere or you're going to this place to visit or something, and it's intense because it is this isolated incident. But if you live there for any length of time, you would have to settle into a more regular pattern, right? And there's maybe a little bit of a parallel there in that type of situation.
So many ways that we get it wrong with that mind trick that you just talked about. And actually it's the key to getting over it. That's the great part. Understanding that it's a kind of trick of the mind is the key to not overvaluing that first feeling you get with someone.
This is just, hello, brain. You're doing that thing again.
You're doing
as opposed to imbuing some, karmic, existential, transcendent value onto this person.
And they're doing a thing that...
Well, and again, I've said this before. Wow. Arrogant little bastard. No, but the notion would be that the issue is very rarely observation. I tend to think it's more an issue of interpretation. That's where the problems arise in life. Everyone's looking at the same stuff in theory. It's just a question of how they rationalize it. How do they substantiate it, or make it fit into their worldview? That's where the glitch often is.
As you say, it might be something that they put out universally, that once you realize that, it becomes cheaper.
Yes.
It no longer has the same weight. I've met guys where I'm like, I meet a guy and when we go out or something, I'm like, this guy's like, it's so charming.
What a raconteur.
So dazzling. I'm like, and then he makes me feel so, connected, and I'm like, we're going to be best friends. I've fallen into the trap where
You've been finessed by some dude on a night out.
Well, I've been so charmed that I'm like, I'm like, go home, and I say to Audrey,
brother.
yeah, like, this guy's great.
Well, this is maybe a bit of over judgmentalism on my part, but I almost tend to think the people who were like that from the get-go, it's almost mutually exclusive with something that's more wholesome in the long term. Like the people who try really hard to make a really good first impression, I tend to almost think, like, I'm just thinking in the back of my head, I'm just kind of side-eyeing them a little bit. Like, okay, when does the other shoe drop? When does the really bad stuff happen? When do I get to know the real you? Anyways, go check that out. Sorry, I watched more of that than I should. I'm assuming it's part of a larger podcast. Chris Williamson and Matthew Hussey. All right, let's get to the next one. The Cult of Crybullies by Shoe on Head. As I said, this is kind of a follow-up to the one I had done, I think last week, at the beginning of last week, about Emiru. And also, I guess, the one I had done about denims. Maybe. Sort of. I guess I don't know about that one. But it was kind of in reference to that situation. For the record, Shoe on Head, I don't know if you were to describe her, if you would describe her as like a person with the soul of an angelic mule skinner. If that makes sense. Probably doesn't, but that's kind of the vibe. I think I watched this a couple of times, so hopefully this will...
What the hell is going on with your host, Ugly Belle Delphine? Now, before you ask, yes, there is an Epstein Files video coming out. I feel like everyone...
Here's a question I have for people who are really into that whole thing. Was there anyone who came out in the Epstein Files that you were just like, holy crap, I had no idea? Because it does feel like most of the people that I had heard of were people who already were kind of a little bit sus. They kind of knew who Jeffrey Epstein was. They knew who he associated with. All right, give me a second. Hello? Nice. Are you guys in... Alright. Alright. Alright, sounds good. But... Hell.
has like streamer brain nowadays, and like every fucking video
Yeah, where was I?
has to be breaking news in order to get the most views. But I am taking my time with it. I'm sure you understand there is a lot happening.
You know, with this anti-Semitic culture right now, she voted against a resolution.
Obfuscation. This is right.
condemning.
Oh,
Is
really?
Jewish. I just want to be clear.
So you want to go there, attorney?
Okay, here's a question. As it felt like since the advent of Donald Trump, it's kind of almost been the WWEification of politics. Like it's turned into the WWE a little bit more. Like the politicians have gotten a little bit more flamboyant. Almost.
Do you want to go there? Are you serious?
Gentlemen,
Talking about anti-Semitism to a woman who lost her grandfather.
Trump card. And that's not a pun. I'm just it just almost feels like that's the type of thing she never mind.
Your country, sir. Anyway, let's just forget about these satanic billionaire pedophiles running the world, and let's talk about some internet drama, shall we? Because that is what's really important. For a little over a decade
Yeah, it is.
now, the most inane things can get you called a
Inane, that's a good one.
racist or a Nazi on the internet. To the point where these words hold little to no meaning anymore. It's so bad that when someone is called a racist or a Nazi online, I'm immediately like, oh, what funny joke did they tell?
But that is a point that is really irksome to me. That you can have people that there's who basically take a word that means one thing and just use it to mean whatever they want, and they ruin it. And I don't know if there's really anything you can do about it. It's just kind of, if it's popular enough, that's what people start using it to mean. But it irks the crap out of me. I hate that.
But ladies and gentlemen, we have officially come to the point where not saying anything also makes you a racist Nazi.
Based.
For the few of you watching this channel who are employed, there's a very popular Twitch streamer named Emaru. She's a cosplayer.
It does, yeah. It does feel like these days there are a lot of people who play very fast and loose with the notion of like proactive as opposed to passive. Well, this is probably one of the problems with actually one of the movements beyond like the civil rights movement, the civil rights movements these days, beyond the fact that they do a whole bunch of webbing and stolen valor and crap like that, where, oh, this is just like what they were doing with back in the days of slavery and Jim Crow and crap. But beyond that, it went from a point at which the idea was, don't stop me from doing what I want to do. Don't stop me from, if I'm good at something, I should be able to do it. Just don't get in my way. Don't proactively stop us from doing these things. To, you must proactively help us to do these things. Right? And it feels like that's kind of where it really went off the rails. Like, it's not enough to not do harm to these people and what they want to do and to get in their way. You have to participate in this crap.
Just kind of a fun, chill, normie video game streamer. Well, the other day, someone in her chat asked her opinion about ICE, and this is what she had to say.
Like, there's a certain extent.
So, here's a question for the older people in the audience. Did immigration always used to be like this? Because, you look at politician interviews from back in the day, and I think the notion would have been at that point, like, immigration was much less divisive. It was maybe more even of a bipartisan issue. I think Bernie Sanders, there was even an interview of him floating around the internet where he's talking about it being a Koch brothers scheme. No, they just want to bring in all this free labor and whatnot. It's not a good thing. You can't have immigration, blah, 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 blah. But it feels like, I'm assuming it was kind of maybe before the advent of 9/11 or something like that. It was more an issue of logistics and stuff like that. And then at some point, it became got the racialized to crap to the point where it is what it is today. And it feels like in an ideal world, it would be primarily like a logistical type of thing. There are a lot of reasons why people might want to leave their country. Only some of those are good. There are a lot of reasons people might want to come here. Only some of those are good. There's a certain amount of people we can take in per year without putting too great a burden on the infrastructure or the, economy, right? Like, it doesn't seem like it should be that divisive, but somehow it just is. I don't know.
where I'm like, okay, sure, I get people wanting big content creators to like say their opinions on like important topics. I get that, right? But it's like, if you're
Well, I guess I suppose on some level. Never mind.
if you
Never
need
mind.
a streamer who doesn't even know anything about politics to tell you about politics, you probably just need to get
See this thing too. I'm going all over the place here.
on like important topics. I get that, right? But it's
Look
like,
at her hands.
if you need a
Just
streamer
everyone.
who
Do
doesn't
I
know anything
do
about
do I do weird hand gestures as well? Because it feels like
Politics?
this is a thing that almost everyone does, and I half wonder if it's just something that's either intuitive or unique to the individual, like a type of sub language that goes along with what they're saying and kind of works as an extrapolation of it, or a way to accentuate, emphasize what they're saying.
to tell you about politics, you probably just need to get off the internet.
In a world where it seems like every single celebrity is just screaming their
She did bird hands.
political takes completely
Beware.
unprompted, this was a refreshing thing to hear. Seems like a pretty sane, rational, inoffensive thing to say, right? Wrong. This short little clip where she ironically tried to avoid controversy ended up being one of the most controversial dramas this year. I feel like decades worth of news has happened in the past, like,
To be fair, I think her kind of position on this has become increasingly more popular. There was some film festival in Berlin, and a lot of the actors were kind of doing that thing too, where they're like, "Hey, no, I don't want to talk about this." And again, I still agree with that. Like, I that is still my kind of notion that, like, good, yeah. The notion is that, like, not all people have to follow the same vocation. There are a lot of good things to do, and doing them, choosing any given vocation that you might be suited to, or that you might be good at, or that you just really want to pursue because of where you were born, because of how you were brought up, because of what you were just skilled at, will be mutually exclusive with other things to some extent. So the notion that, no, everyone has to focus on this and be aware of this and get involved, like, no, they don't. Thank heavens Chris Hansen doesn't. Well, to be fair, with regards to... luckily, with regards to pedophilia, there's not a lot of necessity for it, thank heavens. With regards to politics, or with regards to, not everyone has to be a lawyer, not everyone has to be a policeman, thank heavens. Not everyone has to get involved in blankety blank, 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 blank. Whatever, fill in the blank. No. Not everyone has to be involved with that. Not everyone has to be interested in that. And now I'm rambling. All right, let's go.
2 months, don't you? Every day there's like a breaking story of the most insane shit you've ever heard in your life. And everyone is expected to have a fully formed opinion on every single breaking story. There's pressure to react, to pick a side, to condemn, to defend. But the reality is, when a story...
Well, and to add, point to point here, it feels like in a lot of cases, I hate the notion that you should be qualified to talk about a subject, because the qualified people often use that as just a way to suppress or disregard any opinion they don't agree with or they don't like. But it feels like quite often making a point badly is worse than not making the point at all, right? You never get a second chance at a first impression, as the saying goes, right? So the notion that actors or people who haven't studied this are going out and standing up on their hind legs and spouting their uninformed opinions at the public is perhaps not the best idea, just in general.
first breaks, we're usually not seeing the full picture. And that's why for years now, I have been using today's sponsor, Ground News. So let's
Ground
quickly give them a
News.
shout out before we jump into today's video, shall we? Ground News is a website and an app that lets you see how news stories are being covered all across the political breakdown and really make sure to see how political bias and media on Ground News, a right-wing story, completely different vibes. The Ground News feature I like the most is the blind spot. The has covered it because of finding of news up in the morning. I'm currently offering 40% off their
There you go.
Advantage plan, which
There's her thing, I guess.
is the plan I use to access all their amazing features. This comes to only like $5 a month, which is like the price of a cup of coffee nowadays. To get the 40% discount,
I don't drink coffee.
Just go to ground.news/shoe or use the QR code on.
I don't know, like, how do most people, like, we weren't allowed to have coffee till we were 13 or something. And it was like, it'll stunt your growth or something. I don't think that was well, it wouldn't necessarily maybe be the case. I just, like, I kind of stopped drinking it. I think sometimes caffeine can mess with some other stuff, so I sometimes get headaches or whatever, so I generally try to avoid caffeine in general. But, yeah. Also, I just don't like the taste of it. Like, what's the point of a drink which you have to put a bunch of crap in to even make it taste marginally good? Same thing that goes for alcohol, for that matter. It's an acquired taste. It's an acquired taste.
Screen right here, or click the link in the video description down below to subscribe to their Vantage plan today.
She's not good at dancing.
Big thanks
Don't quit your day job.
to Ground News for sponsoring this video, and thank you, the viewer, for not skipping the ad as always. Right. And now, let's get back to the video. In this video, we are going to talk about the drama surrounding Emaru, the people trying to cancel her, the mistake the left is making by embracing cancel culture again. We're gonna read some insane, hilarious tweets, of course, and then we will talk about my personal experience with these people. And what do I mean by these people? I
Black people.
mean the cult of the cry-bullies. I'm sorry if I sound even more like a pre-pubescent.
Here's a question. Are Aborigines the same kind of strain of humanity as black people? Or do they have their own kind of sub-designation or something?
Boy in this video. I am a little bit sick, but I am here, slaving over a hot laptop for you. If you guys saw my last video, you know I am quite critical of ICE. I don't think we should abolish them, of course, but I think it is good and healthy to criticize your government. I am a political culture war commentator. I talk about political topics often. People come to me to hear my political opinions. But not everybody wants.
Like, I'm not trying to glaze her or be a simp or something. Honestly, she is a good deal more nuanced, I think, and even-handed than most of the people. For the record, like, I don't even listen to people I really like with regards to politics. I don't listen to people I agree with on politics. I just don't like hearing about politics in general. I think I've grown more inclined that way the older I've gotten. Again, I can entirely agree with what a person's saying. I just don't want to hear about it.
To be a political YouTuber or streamer. And not everybody wants to listen to a political YouTuber or streamer. Sometimes we just want to have fun and talk about other things. There are
You go, girl.
lots of other things to talk about. Sometimes we want to look at funny memes or watch funny videos without having politics shoved down our throat. So a lot of people thought it was really refreshing when a cosplay streamer was basically like, I don't want to talk about politics. Why are you coming to me for politics? It was a perfectly sane, rational opinion. So of course, like, half the internet had a problem with it. It's just not that hard to say ICE. It's really not that hard to say
Rainbow no.
ICE, to be honest. It's so hard
It's by no means unique to the gaybos.
to just say ICE. It's really not hard to say ICE. Jesus Christ, how hard is it to just say ICE? How hard is it to just say ICE? How hard is it to just say ICE and move on? Oh my god. Just say ICE. It's not hard. Is it so hard to just say the line? Say the line! Say it! Jesus Christ, like, at this point, even if
It puts one in mind of, like, the notion of, like, Christians in the Middle Ages, where they would effectively torture people until they recanted. Like, it occurs to me, like, it would be something different if there were a degree of persuasion involved. But if you're literally just saying, say what I want you to say, or we will harass you into the ground, like, why would you trust what they're going to say anyways? Again, you forced it from them, basically. There was no intellectual meanderings involved in this. It's not like you convinced them that this is the case. You just kind of forced them. Again, like, what virtue or what significance to a confession press ganged out of a person?
Emaru did want to, like, abolish ICE, even if she really did think ICE, she shouldn't say it. Like, I wouldn't say it at this point, because this is just, like, this is
Kind of same here. The more a person tries to force me to do a thing, the less I'm inclined to do it. As a general rule. To the point where it's kind of stupid at times.
This is creepy. This is like a horde of zombies chasing after you.
Well, I don't know if that's entirely right. I don't know if it's entirely just ridiculous to be a little bit oppositional, because it feels like if you let people get that ground on you, if they know that if I can do this thing to them, they will do what I want them to do, it feels like the notion of rewarding that type of behavior is not, generally speaking, a good idea. In general.
Hey, it's actually super easy to stream and have opinions. I'll show you. F ICE, f Donald Trump and everyone in his administration, f Elon Musk, free Palestine, US is on stolen land built by stolen people, Luigi did nothing wrong, abortion is healthcare,
Oh, so like every other country that's ever existed, pretty much.
leave trans people the f alone.
These people
And everyone stood up and clapped.
literally just speak in bumper stickers, dude. Just like copy pasting the internet leftist starter pack. What the hell am I looking at? I hate the Reddit ass. Hey, it's super easy. It's crazy, like 1,000 years ago, this dude's ancestors were hunting mammoths. And now he's
I think Asmongold would actually react to this, and he brought up kind of an interesting point. The notion that all of these people are in lockstep would seem to be indicative that if they're in lockstep on every single issue, it would seem to be indicative of the notion that these aren't personally held beliefs, right? The idea would be that, like, so you could think of it like this. There's a differentiation that's generally made, I don't know if it's in lawfare or something like that, between ethics and morals. Ethics are a thing that is internal or externally imposed upon us, right? The government makes laws that we have to abide by. It's ethical to abide by those laws because the government says, do this thing, I'm acting ethically by doing that thing. Then there are personally held morals, personally derived beliefs, axioms, codes of conduct, right? And I'm not saying like that ethics are bad per se, but I think it's better to have a mixture of both, right? And the notion that these people would base, it feels like categorically the only thing they care about is what is the popular ethical stance to take here? What is it that people agree with? What is it the government says we can do? What is it that my group says we can do? It is rather troubling, given how quickly stuff like that can shift, in my mind. And that the fact that they are in lockstep on every single issue seems to be indicative that they're not really moral people, they're ethical people. I guess. I don't know if they would necessarily even hold to some of that stuff in its fullest sense. Maybe it's just more of a for show type of thing.
on here like, men should not be speaking like this. I'm sorry. We need another war. The post that really seemed to kick this all off was made by Denims, the self-described largest female political...
You ever meet those women who are really pretty, but they somehow make up for it? Like, it feels like she's one of those. Like, you know, prayers and stuff for her, but man, she, I don't think she would be an easy person to love.
streamer. Only because I don't stream Denim.
In my case, it's just, you know, I love her as God loves her, okay? Sister in Christ, or whatever, whatever the crap.
Only because I don't stream. Anyway, I don't have any, like, personal beef with Denims. This isn't, like, an own Denims video. We used to be kind of cool years ago, but, she apparently has some opinions on Emaru, so let's hear her out.
Never thought I'd see the day we'd be fence-sitting the mod...
You know, it's another irksome thing, too. Feels like whenever, like, minorities like Asians or Jews or whatever, manage to kind of put themselves in a place where they're comfortable-ish, it feels like the second those minorities are no longer oppressed, the second they're no longer useful in a political sense, the people who have been championing their causes in these spaces kind of throw them aside with no uncertain, like in no uncertain terms. That it feels like minorities are just kind of a tool in their mad scrabble for power, I guess. Hence the term, I think, BIPOC. Okay, so I did actually look that up. Well, I don't know if I actually looked it up. I think I kind of figured out what it meant, but I think it's like black, indigenous, person of color. So it's not enough to just say minority, because not all minorities are oppressed. Not all minorities are down on their luck the way black, indigenous, person of color minorities are. They're not oppressed on the same level as these people. So you have to create a subcategory of intersectional oppression for these people so that they can feel more oppressed and be more special.
Modern Gestapo. First of all, she's not fence
Sorry, I shouldn't associate these people with the retarded. That's kind of mean to the retarded.
sitting. She's just choosing not to talk about politics. Like, in order to fence sit, you actually have to say something. She didn't even say anything. Like, how do you even know what her opinion is? Second of all, modern Gestapo. Why is everything the f***ing Holocaust? It's totally normal to criticize ICE.
Well, I think that's just kind of a point of human nature, that we remember the last really bad thing that happened. And it, obviously in the case of, mid-century Germans, that was a really bad thing that happened. For the record, I think kind of communist regimes have lapped the Nazis by now in untoward, unjustifiable, preventable deaths. But obviously they had a lot longer to make it. But like they've killed way more people in Russia and Mao Zedong and was it Pol Pot? Places like that. They've gone way further as far as just cost of human life than fascist Nazis. But point being, it was a really shocking type of scenario where you had a leader who was literally trying to wipe out an entire race of people, and multiple categories of people as well, like gypsies and homosexuals. I'm not sure who else. But in any case, like, again, it was this shocking event in history. And we remember that very vividly. So it feels like evil will inevitably become this shape-shifting mechanism where it can't look the same as the last really bad thing to come along. By necessity, it will have to look different if it is to rise to prominence again. It'll have to be something different. That feels like the only really guaranteed thing when it comes to evil, is that it won't look the same as the last really bad thing that happened. It has to look different in order to succeed. Alright.
It's totally understandable to have issues with the things they are doing. But modern Gestapo? Don't you guys get tired of this shit? Like, don't you guys get tired of saying, like, isn't this exhausting after a while? Everything is
Yeah, they're taking a perfectly good word and ruining it.
Nazis, everything is the Holocaust, everyone is Hitler. It's like nothing else bad ever happened in history. Like, what did they used to compare bad things to before World War II? Oh my god, you're literally Napoleon. Also, I love this. Racist chud. Like, where did the racism part, like, where did that come from? Listen, I don't get on camera and start talking about cars or math or taxes or investing or going outside or the plenty of other things I don't know about. I sit here and talk about the gender war and the culture war because I'm good at those things, and that's what people watch me for. That is my lane, and I stay in it. Emerald likes what she's doing. Her audience likes what she's doing. There are plenty of other channels that will regurgitate your political takes back to you. Just turn on the TV. Turn on CNN. Most people, most normal people, are sick and tired of celebrities just like spewing their political takes completely unprompted. I don't
Amen.
care what Glub Shido thinks of politics, okay? What?
I should look this up. Where's Glub Shido from? Or is that even his name? I don't know. For whatever reason, it just reminds me of some sort of like Star Wars thing. But there's actually a whole like conspiracy theory surrounding like Darth Jar Jar. Like a conspiracy theory that Jar Jar Binks is actually a Sith Lord. And it's weirdly kind of plausible. It is astonishingly how convincing it is as an idea. I don't know. There may have been some sort of actual screenplay that was leaked. I'm not for sure about that. There might have been something that was leaked that had actually revealed something of that sort. I'm not for sure, though.
Does Glub Shido have to get on stage and start talking about how we're on stolen land or some shit? Why do you need your political opinions thrown up into your mouth by a celebrity? Really?
She's right when she says most streamers are not qualified.
Don't answer that. Don't answer that. Please don't answer that.
She's right when she says most streamers are not qualified to talk about politics. Okay, here's the thing, dude. You actually don't have to be qualified to talk about politics.
To just say what I want you to say.
To say it's not that hard of a concept.
You actually don't.
No, you should just trust me and the people who are telling you what to say. Well, And maybe there's nothing wrong with trust to some extent, but it feels like when you're talking about a thing, especially something that's like something that is as divisive and as what we'd say causal, dangerous to get wrong, I guess. It's like if someone asked you to, hey, my child is coughing, what should I do with them? You would at least want to do some sort of cursory check as to what is maybe going on before you start, this is what it is, this is what's wrong, this is whatever.
You don't have to know what you're talking about in order to just say the line. What? You should look into a topic, do your own research, come to your own conclusion, and form your own opinion on the topic. You should not...
Do you know what's another weird thing? This whole democracy thing, this fad that's going on these days, sorry. This whole thing does almost make you a little bit long for the days of monarchy, where you could have two peasants in the field, and neither of them had anything to do with what was going on in the government, so they could be friends. But the whole fact that you have governments that are for the people, by the people, not that I'm saying we should revert to, other more autocratic forms of government, but it does feel like there is a disadvantage in that the population, to some extent, has the potential to be divided. Because, yes, they do actually have, to some extent, a say in politics. There are downsides to it, I guess.
Just blindly, mindlessly say the line.
You know who doesn't do political content?
It occurs to me that the reason they might want others to blindly, mindlessly say the line is because that's what they're doing.
Cutie Cinderella.
Maybe they don't want to do the work.
Cutie Cinderella literally never does political content. And even she's capable of saying F ice.
But, yeah. I don't know. I think if for a second people thought that people getting involved in politics would mean more people were joining the other side of politics, they would all of a sudden be very accepting of people remaining neutral. They're only saying that because I think they think in the end these people will all be on their side. Like,
what about Cinna? You don't have to be a political creator to recognize that it's not hard to say F ice.
You don't have to be a political content creator to say the line. All your other friends are saying the line, Emaru. Why aren't you saying the line, Emaru?
L ice. Okay, but unironically though, F them. Straight up.
Yeah. See, the whole tone of this person here irks me, because it feels like streamers, they want to present themselves as the type of people who are in fact moral. They are conscientious. If the time came for them, if the clutch moment came, they would step out of line. They would fight the power. They would rebel. They would revolt. Right? That they're firebrands. They're like, yeah, sure you would. Definitely wouldn't be a Nazi with the rest of them. Definitely wouldn't.
Go. Yeah, it's F them, don't care, and if you don't like that I say that, it's F you too. You know what I mean? It's really...
And there seems to be a weird correlation between that which is optically advantageous and these people's willingness to commit to a position.
That easy for me, I'm telling you right now.
There's Emaru's roommate saying the line. Aren't we all proud of her? By the way, where are all her friends during all of this? Where are all her...
Yeah, where are they? Sorry. I am not a sassy black woman, for the record.
Her morally righteous, good guy, big streamer friends, while this is all...
For the record, I think one of her friends did actually come out at NMP lol. If I'm being uber generous to her cohorts, Confederates, whatever the crap, she may have just been like, dude, just don't get involved. Don't ruin your platforms. Don't put yourselves on the fire line for me, okay? And if that's the case, great, wonderful. But again, there is this correlation between what is optically advantageous and that which streamers are willing to come out with a really strong position against. Because in situations like this, where they know they're going to get crap for it, it's kind of crickets. Seems to be in any case. Anyways, you guys can go check out the rest of the video if you want. Cult of Crybullies by Shoe on Head, in reference to I believe Denims and Emiru and Casey Tron, who is a stoner streamer lady person who has ideas about things. In any case, let's move on. Alright, let's get on this. Alright, we are back and better than ever. For the record, I've done some stuff since the last time I was on here, so I think, you know what, actually, I might just see, I want to do the other one. There's a new one I was doing called Dream Engines, whatchamacallit cities, Nomad Cities, I think. So I think I might do that. Hopefully that can stream okay. Worked last time. So that's going. Game capture. Okay, I guess we're good. Guess we're good. Alright. Yeah, we're golden. And this is on the second landing. So I've got some stuff around. Now, let's see. What did I get going here? Got that. Military faction. Alright. Time before threats increase. Negative 30%. How if I want? Production speed. Power production. I'll go with that. Get this going. Okay, that's not gonna. Now, I think I'm gonna have to bring around this. I think I could just move this. Oh no, I already have one of those guns. Why in the hell didn't I? Just have to. Oh, there was one down here. All right, we're good. That's the bloody thing. All right, now. good on that point. Alright. Should be alright. Should be alright now. Get this thing. Good there. I might want to put a couple more stone quarries. Not quarries, stone cutters? Stone workers, I guess. We're all good on food. All good on this thing here. Just hook it up with this or something. Alright, now. Get up there. Oh, dagnabbit. You want? I don't know if I want to stick those on the same line as the rest of them. With that. One more for now. Alright. Now, what else? Shop. We require a shop. Make some improvements here. All right. eventually I should start upgrading these things as well. Good on that. Good on Yaga. Some more houses in here. Alright, where from? Alright. Alright, there we go. Let's see what we can do. Probably. I was into weird porn at one point. Good. Good. Now, Sandalwood? Sandalwood. Alright, let's get some of that going on. so it doesn't have wood anyways. Alright. Yoink. Stuff going, but unfortunately, that would not be possible. Not this time around, in any case. Some of this stuff. Some people say a man's made out of mud. A poor man's made out of muscle and blood. Alright, I gotta get ready to take off here if at all possible. That's not necessary. Make sure everything goes off here. These. Alright, what? Oh, alright. Alright, some of this stuff. E369. Alright, good. And I think that's actually about it. I'll save it. I'll probably take off and then. Thanks for watching.